Welcome back to Sika Strength. Welcome back to Sika Stan. My name is Dara. I'm one half of Sika Strength. We're S&C coaches, and we're really involved in trying to eke out the best information possible for you as an athlete, whether that be strength training, field sports, power sports, speed sports, whatever it is. Distill that down and give it to you in easily digestible form. What do you think athletes can learn from the modern day bodybuilding movement? So modern day bodybuilding, I think everybody's well aware the main kind of hitters here. Dr. Mike, we have Jeff Niffbard, people like Sam Sulek in the athlete sphere. And I think it's a very, very well represented group. In my opinion, there's four main aspects we can learn from as athletes, whatever our sport is, and we can take that from the kind of modern day bodybuilding movement and apply that to our own sport and our own training. The first one is discipline. Undeniably, bodybuilders have some of the best discipline that we see across any of the sporting domains. Bodybuilding is a completely engrossing sport. You have to be disciplined with your lifestyle, with your diet, with your training, with your recovery. Absolutely everything is vital. You don't get maverick bodybuilders in the same way where you get maverick soccer players, football players, and rugby players who can show up on a Saturday morning with their phenomenal level of genetic talent, not have trained at all really, and still be the best player on the field. Now, obviously that only works up until a certain point, but we even see it in kind of modern day, highly paid professional athletes who maybe don't buy into the strength training in the weight room quite so much, or maybe don't pay as much attention to their diet. Now, discipline with bodybuilders is absolutely vital because their product is 100% of them. It's not just their ability to bench press something really well. It's not just their ability to be able to sprint really fast, which they're probably born with. It's their complete and utter physique that they have right now. So any element that they might fall down in will be immediately apparent on their physique. Now, in terms of discipline and how I refer to discipline here isn't all about just driving your head into a wall as hard as you possibly can. It's not so much about that grit, that steadfast pursuit of a goal, no matter what the outcomes are. That's not really what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about here in terms of discipline is their ability to stick to long-term training and nutritional plans and not deviate from that at all. Now, bodybuilders have the advantage of not necessarily having a predefined season, so they can do longer, lower, slower training blocks, really pick and choose what competitions they're going to, and have a much better structured and well-disciplined training block, rather than somebody who might have to do 2 months of off-season strength training, then maybe not get back to heavy squatting for another 4 months until they might have a bit of a mid-season break in their football season or whatever it is. If you're an athlete and you're looking at these bodybuilders and you're looking at the phenomenal results they're getting, the first place I would look is just how disciplined you are yourself with your training. Have a look at how well you plan out things in advance and then how well you stick to all of those structures in between. If you want to get a bigger squat and you're looking at your back squat and maybe you pick a 10-week back squat cycle, you're going to squat twice per week, that's 20 training sessions. Now, 20 sets, reps, and load is not a lot to stick to. 20 training sessions, you should be able to write out every single one of those training sessions, and ideally you should be able to hit every single one of those numbers for sets, reps, and load across all 20 of those sessions without a single miss. Now, I know from everyone we've ever worked with and from training myself for the last 15 years, I know for a fact that even in those 20 sessions, even in just something as short as 10 weeks, one of those numbers is going to be missed. And it might be that coming into the training block, I wasn't in great shape, so maybe the first few weeks of there, some of the volume hit me. Maybe it was that on week 4, day 2, if anyone's hit the Road to Anywhere squat program, you'll know how hard that session is. Maybe we've gone to week 4, day 2. It's 3 sets of 8 at 85% of 1 rep max. I've gone into that session. I didn't appropriately plan my week. And then due to that inappropriate planning, I wasn't effectively recovered. And although there's been thousands of people run it and hit that session absolutely perfectly, I'm only able to go in there and hit one set of 8 and then a set of 6 and a set of 4 or something along those lines. This is the kind of discipline we're talking about, where the ability to take a large block of time, really plan out every single session within that block of time. And it's not necessarily that bodybuilders have to have every set and rep and amount of load accounted for. They don't. That's not their shtick. But if you're an athlete and you want to get stronger or bigger or faster or whatever it is, then you should really be planning that out and making every single one of those sessions as perfect as you possibly can. Is how obsessed bodybuilders are with this science-based approach. Now, I know there's some bit of a kind of pushback in the community now. I know some lifters will kind of just go in there and go as hard as possible, but then a lot of them will also quote the scientific papers of going to failure on every set, or going to failure on a top set every day of training, right? In the bodybuilding world, for whatever reason, we can sit here all day and postulate reasons as to why there might be certain personality types higher represented in the world of bodybuilding than there is in the world of team sports or field sports or sports that might require a large level of hand-eye coordination. We can talk about these reasons all day. They're not important. What I do want you to think about, if you're an athlete and you want to get the most out of your training, then look at the science-based obsession that's going on in bodybuilding at the moment and see what are the good aspects we can take from that. One of the main aspects we should be taking from that is that we should have the ability to appropriately question and appropriately draw out the good information when we see some pieces of information online. I'm not pointing any fingers right now. I'm not calling anyone out or anything. But let's take, for an example, you're an athlete. You're a track and field athlete. You've injured your hamstring and you're going online to seek some advice or to find some information on hamstring injury rehab. Now, there is thousands of physiotherapists on YouTube, on Instagram. Many of them give out great advice. Now, what I think we should really be learning from the bodybuilding sphere and their science-based obsession is we should be learning how to decipher good information from bad information and using that as one of the most important skills you can possibly have. I remember one of the people in my undergraduate degree with me said, "This degree is worth absolutely nothing if it's not for an effective bullshit filter it gives you," and I could not agree more. Obviously, everyone doesn't need a degree in exercise science. You definitely do not. But what you do need is you need the ability to look at information people are purveying to you to say, okay, what right does this person have to be purveying this information? Is their experience really that valuable or that applicable to me? And then finally, where are they getting their information from? Do they get their information from watching 5 TikTok reels, seeing what's kind of trending and then just commenting on that? Have they ever done any of the stuff they're talking about doing? Is there a bank of data or a bank of evidence behind them to state that other people have success in this same mode of training? Or whatever it is, mode of rehab, wherever you're going with this. If it's one person out there on their own, they're kind of a maverick and they're a lone wolf and they're jumping on Bosu balls or whatever, it's probably not great, right? But if we have a massive bank of people behind them and a bank of clear and obvious success in those people, then there's something to be learned from that. The third area then that I think athletes can really learn from the modern bodybuilding era is their entire holistic approach. Now, some of the most watched videos of bodybuilders on YouTube is full day of eating or full day in the life of Chris Bumstead or whatever it is. These full blocks of waking up in the morning to going to sleep at night, people are obsessed with watching it. And most of that obsession comes from the fact that the entire 24 hours of the day of a professional bodybuilder is taken up with being a professional bodybuilder. It's not that you go to work, you finish work, have some food, and then do 2.5 hours of training, and then you go and sleep at night. It's you wake up in the morning, you go and eat like a bodybuilder. You do recovery work that a bodybuilder needs to do. You then go and do whatever work tasks you have to do. Then you eat like a bodybuilder. then you hydrate like a bodybuilder while you're in work for the rest of the day, then you eat like a bodybuilder, then you go and train like a bodybuilder, then you eat, hydrate, and recover like a bodybuilder, and then you go to sleep with some weird bodybuilder voodoo stuff going on in your bedroom. That's the life of a professional bodybuilder. And in the more modern era, that has become even more prevalent and even more holistic in their approach. Every single thing they do revolves around them becoming bigger, leaner, and more freakish every single day. And I think a lot of the time, particularly people competing at quite a high level in sport, will have just this thing of, okay, I've got a squat session in the morning, I'll go to the gym at 7 a.m. I'll do that squat session. Won't really think about anything to do with rugby or soccer or whatever it is too much for the rest of the day. Then I have a pitch session at 3, or I have a pitch session at 7 in the evening, and I have a game at the weekend. Now, if you want to get the best out of whatever it is, wherever your main decrements fall at the moment, for you, it might be that you constantly get this adductor strain 2 months into training every time, or maybe your Achilles tendons become incredibly tight anytime you do more than 20 kilometers of pitch running per week, or whatever it is. If you start seeing these decrements and you've addressed the specific decrement itself, but can't ever really get over it with just that physical therapy rehab work, or just that specific strength training intervention you're using to fight it, then you should be looking at your entire approach and start eking out those efficiencies and start really optimizing your entire day to suit your sport and your development within that sport as much as you physically can. So thank you so much for watching this video. As always, today's video is brought to you by the Sika Strength app. It's available on iOS and Android. If all this talk of bodybuilding has gotten you excited for putting on some size in the upper body, we've a brand new program available. It's called Sika Strength Body Armor Upper Body, and it's there to make you a bit more resilient against all that wear and tear that comes along with putting heavy barbells over your head or pressing big and heavy weights. So it's a lot of upper body, upper back, arms, shoulders, pecs, bodybuilding. It is massively congruent with your normal training. So if you're a weightlifter, want to get bigger, stronger, and more stable overhead, this is a great option for you, as well as a great option for a number of other sporting applications.